Man, oh man, was I confused yesterday. For some unknown reason, I thought it was Saturday, and I did not discover it was Sunday until I was out running my dogs, and then the light went off. Hey, it is Sunday after all. You know, I could be suffering from the dreaded wall fatigue. It is, with certainty, Monday, the 30th of May, 2022. Now, spinning off of yesterday's podcast, I left you with the following point to ponder. There are three parties to a crime: the criminal, the victim, and the police. Who usually shows up last, I asked. And today, let me add, who shows up last, if they even show up at all? Oh, come on, Dave. I mean, I can hear you guys thinking this. Don't be treating us like little school children. Sure, obviously the cops show up last, but they don't even know a crime is even being committed until a call comes into the 911 dispatcher. But when they get the call, they respond. Can you imagine the liability and legal nightmare police and sheriff departments would face if they fail to respond? These law enforcement people are funded by us. Yeah, we the people. We buy them all the cool toys, their cars, their SUVs, and pay good money to train them. In fact, Dave, you senile bastard, a lot of departments even paint "to protect and serve" on their vehicles and letterheads. So, there. Oh yeah, people, I've heard this many times from all the unemployed legal experts that got their degree from Bottom Peter Pitt University. But let's look at the facts, should we? Those miserable details, those facts that always seem to get in the way and ruin someone's good legal theory at the bar. Let's take a look at Warren versus the District of Columbia. One of many cases that prove that the free legal advice you get at the bar is worth what you paid for it. Nothing. Let me set up the case. And this is a nightmare. In the early morning hours of Sunday, March 16, 1975, Carolyn Warren, Joan Talapero, who shared a room on the third floor of the rooming house at Lamont Street, Northwest in the District of Columbia, and Miriam Douglas, who shared a room on the second floor with her 4-year-old daughter, were asleep. The women were awakened by the sound of the back door being broken down by two men later identified as Marvin Kent James Morse. The men entered Douglas' second-floor room, where Kent forced Douglas to perform oral sex on him, and Morse raped her. Warren and Talapero heard Douglas' screams from the floor below. Warren called 911 and told the dispatcher that the house was being burglarized and requested immediate assistance. The department employee told her to remain quiet and assured her that police assistance would be dispatched promptly. Warren's call was received at Metropolitan Police Headquarters at 6:23 a.m. and was recorded as a burglary in progress. At 6:26, a call was dispatched to officers on the street as Code 2, although calls of a crime in progress should be given priority and designated as Code 1. 4 police cruisers responded to the broadcast, 3 to the Lamont Street address, and 1 to another address to investigate a possible suspect. Meanwhile, Warren and Talapero crawled from their window into an adjoining roof and waited for the police to arrive. While there, they observed one policeman drive through the alley behind their house and proceed to the front of the residence without stopping, leaning out the window, or even getting out of the car to check the back entrance of the house, which had been broken into. A second officer apparently knocked on the door in front of the residence, but left when he received no answer. The 3 officers departed the scene at 6:33 a.m., 5 minutes after they arrived. Warren and Talapero crawled back inside the room. They again heard Douglas' continuing screams, again called the police, told the officer that the intruders had entered the home, and requested immediate assistance. Once again, a police officer assured them that help was on the way. The second call was received at 6:42 a.m. and recorded merely as "investigate the trouble." It was never dispatched to any police officers. Believing the police might be in the house, Warren and Talapero called down to Douglas, thereby alerting Kent to their presence. At knife point, Kent and Morse then forced all 3 women to accompany them to Kent's apartment, and for the next 14 hours, the captive women were raped, robbed, beaten, forced to commit sexual acts upon one another, and made to submit to the sexual demands of Kent and Morse. Warren, Talapero, and Douglas brought the following claims of negligence against the District of Columbia and the Metropolitan Police Department. 1. The dispatcher's failure to forward the 6:23 a.m. call with the proper degree of urgency. 2. The responding officer's failure to follow standard police investigative procedures, specifically their failure to check the rear entrance and positioned themselves properly near the doors and windows to ascertain whether there was any activity inside. And 3, the dispatcher's failure to dispatch the 6:42 a.m. call. So, sounds like these 3 defendants have a pretty good case, does it not? Well, according to the legal experts, graduated from Bottom Feeder U, yeah, they would say, boy, I wouldn't want to be those cops. Well, here's the decision. In a 4-3 decision, the District Court of Columbia Court of Appeals affirmed the trial court's dismissal of the complaints against the District of Columbia and individual members of the Metropolitan Police Department based on the public duty doctrine, ruling that, quote, the duty to provide public services is owed to the public at large, and absent a special relationship between the police and the individual, no specific legal duty exists, unquote. The court thus adopted the trial court's determination that no special relationship existed between the police and the appellants, and therefore no specific legal duty existed between the police and the appellants, the victims. So how cool is that? Not very cool if you're one of the victims. But it goes to prove the point. The court upheld the bloody obvious, people. You, and you alone, are the sole provider of your security, protection of your family, and your property. The police might show up, they might help, but don't count on it, because they are not your individual bodyguards, but they're protectors of the general public at large. Where's there any fallacy in this reasoning? And obviously, there aren't enough cops on duty anywhere to protect every individual at any time. I mean, come on, people, this is a no-brainer. Does not make sense, seriously? In the recent Texas shootout, who saved a few children from this certain death? It wasn't the heavily armed police who stood around for an hour with their thumbs in their asses. It was the mothers who did the job. Why the parents why they weren't armed, I can't say for certain. Perhaps they too believe the myth about individual police protection. Like I said, when seconds count, cops are just minutes away, and that is if they are able and willing to respond. Hey, they may be tied up elsewhere. You know, I'm not going to pick on sitting around Dunkin' Donuts. In fact, the founding documents to our country, yeah, you know the one, gave us the Second Amendment so you could defend yourself. Why surrender it and let someone else, you may not even know, defend you? Now, in a similar vein, people, we're so stupid we just never learn. The Bible clearly states that you, yes, you, are to raise up and train your children. But again, for some strange reason, somebody sold, and we bought, the idea strangers that are too often underqualified and poorly vetted can and will do a better job than parents. Now, Michael Matt from The Remnant has a nice little take on this. And if my video card doesn't driver's file, we can hear it. Here we go. Looks like it's going to work.
Does anybody want to talk about really why the kids are killing each other? I think we should. Don't you? Don't you think the big kids in the room should have a conversation about this before it just gets completely out of control? It's almost there already. Because here's the thing. I'm one of those guys that grew up with guns all my life. You know what? Every kid I knew had a gun. In fact, every kid in the Midwest, America, 50 years ago, grew up around guns. But nobody was shooting up their classmates. Nobody was indiscriminately blasting away at a convenience store. Why not? You should ask that question, maybe? Because the guns were literally everywhere. I mean, your dad just brought you, he took you up to Herb's at the Hardware Hank to buy your first .22 rifle. Maybe gave you a gun safety class, and away you went. You had a gun all your life. You know, we all did. What's changed? The guns? Please. Back in my day, a .44 Magnum could blow a human being into next week. So please, don't tell me about your little AR, because if you think that's a huge difference, you don't know anything about guns. Yeah, it's faster, yeah, it fires more. That's not the point. Why do they walk into the classroom or into the store in the first place and start shooting? Who cares what style gun they have? What, did you kill 5 people? Let's use the 6-shooter. Bam, 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 bam. You shoot 6. Kill 6. That's okay. But you bring your assault weapon and you shoot more? That's bad? This is such ridiculous, kindergarten, illogical, crazy going on now. Because we got to ask, if it's not the guns, what else has changed, friends? It's an easy conversation to have. And again, even the most conservative Republican politicians are prattling on and on and on about mental health. Okay, fine, I'll buy that. We got some mental health problems. Have you seen these kids? Multicolored hair, everything's pierced, vacant eyes, plugged ears, plugged everything. They're completely cut. Yeah, we have some mental health problems, but that doesn't get to the question. Why are all the kids going nuts? Why weren't the kids suffering from all this mental health disease when somebody my age was a kid? Back, by the way, when we all had dads, and we went to church every Sunday, we knew which bathroom to use. I'm not shooting anybody. Why not? And what's going on then in these public school classrooms? Can we ask that? Is that okay? Or is that racist? What's going on in there where these educators have access, unfettered access to the kids for 7 hours a day, 5 days a week? What's going on in there? I think maybe we should look at that, don't you?
I think maybe we should look at that, don't you? What are they teaching the kids? And do we even know? Alright, finally, people, I'm just going to try to slide this in if I get enough time. Let's talk about briefly the curious case of the 17th Amendment to the Constitution of these United States. Yeah, that's the one. 17th Amendment. Originally under Article 1, Section 3, Clauses 1 and 2 of the Constitution, each state legislature elected its state senators for a 6-year term. Each state, regardless of size, is entitled to 2 senators as part of the Connecticut Compromise between the small and the large states. This contrasted with the House of Representatives, a body elected by popular vote, elected at large. Here was the theory, people. Since all monies originate spending in the House, give the people direct access to control of who sits in the House and limit them greedy criminal bastards to 2-year terms. However, the states had rights, and the Senate being the more deliberative body, they had 6-year terms, staggered of course, and they let the state legislatures elect and select their senators. But by the turn of the century, 1912 or so, we couldn't have that anymore. We had to get the senators elected directly by the public at large, as the House is, henceforth the 17th Amendment. Why was the Constitution originally allowing the states? I told you, to protect states' rights. The states selected their representatives to the Senate. It was a check and balance to an ever-increasing, powerful central federal government that our founding fathers seemed to know would eventually grow to a size that became a Leviathan. Yeah, people, they have been plotting against us very patiently and very precise for a long time. Asymmetric warfare. They're coming at us from every direction. I just thought I'd throw that little fun fact in about the 17th Amendment. What it's about and why they decided we needed it. Somebody decided. Bill Gates wasn't around back then. Okay, people. Now, just because today's a holiday, it is Memorial Day, doesn't mean I ain't got stuff to do.